even when I was in Florida, I was watching and worshiping with you. Then last Sabbath, the pastor was here, a friend of mine. We went together. And next Sabbath, Dr. Woods Pomparo will lead up in worship. What a privilege for us to see church to come together. As I look around, we have a lot of visitors in our midst. I don't know if you look at your chairs, there are some cards. I would like to request, may I request the visitors to please write your name. There's a card there, write your name, where we can contact with you. Because I want you to be a part of this community of believers in Christ Jesus. And we're so thankful for that. And we could see how this church has been blessed. Now this morning, what if I'll say to you that the 6 commandments have been changed? But we say, oh, that's ridiculous, Pastor Alan. Well, will I say to you, well, I'm a part of our most influential group, and they could change what? Those commandments. You will say, probably saying something different, but let me tell you this one. From what I've learned, Jesus himself taught this part. I want you to look into this aspect and invite you to look on the Word. John chapter 15, verse 10. John chapter 15, verse 10 tells us that Jesus said, I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in His love. So who would tell someone that he changed the commandment? Because Jesus himself obeyed it and followed. For that reason, Jesus said in Matthew chapter 15, verse 3, He said, the leaders were rebuked by Jesus for what? Transgressing the commandments and obeying what? Let's look into that one. Matthew chapter 15, verse 3. He replied to them, why you also transgress and violate the commandments of God for the sake of the tradition? In other version, it's rules handed down to you by your forefathers or elders. I wonder why Jesus would seek to discard the commandments of God. Well, you will say, which commandment you're talking here? I looked at this magazine that said the 10 Commandments by, they call it Family Research Council from Washington, D.C. And it is interesting, we're talking about which commandments? They said, for majority of Americans, the 10 Commandments are not set in stone. Why? According to USA poll study, here's what it said, 60% of Americans cannot name 5 of the commandments. In fact, it's amazing how Americans do know by comparison. Here's the comparison. He said 60% cannot name the 5 to 10 commandments, while 74% of Americans can name the 3 stooges. Mo, Larry, and Curly. 35% of Americans can recall seed skits from Brady Bunch. And 25% of Americans can name all 7 ingredients of McDonald's Big Mac. And here's the sad news. Only 14% can accurately name all the 10 commandments. Yet 78% Americans are in favor of public display of the commandments. How ironic. Americans affirm the 10 commandments but cannot name them all. Consequently, the greatest sad tragedy is that the 10 commandments are not vanishing from public schools, courtrooms, and government buildings. But they are disappearing from the minds and hearts and lives of most Americans. Yet the commandments and biblical morality were taken seriously during the settlement and founding of America, isn't it? We are so much blessed to know. But sad to say, that's what's going on in our community today. So why not look and review? I invite you to open again your Bible in the Gospel, in the book, Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. And let's review. And you can check yourself. Do you remember the 10 Commandments? Why not? Let's start with verse 1. Do you find him? I know. You could find the text with your text, but don't take text. Okay. Chapter 20 of Exodus. Then God spoke all these words. Remember? It was God who said it. And here's what he said. Said, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Chapter 20, verse 2. What's the first commandment? You shall have no other gods before me. What is that? My simple understanding, if I love God more than anything or anybody else, that becomes my little God. Sometimes we love ourselves more than God, right? We love our family more than God. We love our stuff, anything in this world more than God. I don't know what's the very priority of your day as you start the day. Next verse. 4. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is heaven or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow them nor serve them. Why? Verse 5. For I, the Lord your God, what? Jealous God. Continue. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation, those who hate me. Verse 6. But showing mercies to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. This is what the Word of God is telling us here. Now, I want you to take note, especially the younger generation here, verse 7. What? You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. How many times you hear an expression?
Oh my God.
They're using that expression. Why? I don't know. If they remember this, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless, for takes his name in vain. Remember this one. Then, verse 8. Remember, join with me reading. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Verse 10. But the 7th day, the Sabbath of the Lord your God, in it you shall not do work to your son, to your daughter, to your male servant, to your female servant, your cattle, and your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Interesting. This commandment reminds us of something. What? Oftentimes we forget. What's the first word? Remember. Let's continue. That's the 5th commandment. Verse 12. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. And this is the first commandment, has a promise. 6. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, or covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, or his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor. Take note of all the 10 commandments. Which one is the word that starts remember?
Sabbath.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Remember. And it reminds me of a young man who was so busy working in Montreal, Canada when I was a pastor. I said, hey, how come you didn't join us yesterday? He said, Pastor, oh, I forgot. Because he was working. He said, remember? The statement is, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And Jesus himself, if you remember the readings we had, Luke chapter 4, verse 16, as his custom was, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. I was blessed to see the Nazareth village. And they're trying to keep the village like the days of Jesus. And in the synagogue, they gave us the Pentateuch, the scripture, not like this, but it's a scroll. And it reminds me on that verse. On the Sabbath day, Jesus entered the synagogue in Nazareth. And even in Capernaum, what a blessing. And take note, and Jesus said this, and this was the teaching, Matthew chapter 24:20, and pray that your plant may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. It was the time when Jesus was telling his people, time will come, they will persecute you, but pray that it will not be in winter on the Sabbath. Now you may say, how come during the days of Jesus, he didn't mention, remember the Sabbath day? Why do you think he didn't mention to those Sabbath keepers? Do you think it's necessary for him to remind them? You know, 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege to visit our member of this church in Apopka, Florida. Remember Pastor Dick and Hannah Sotowa? They moved to Apopka, Florida, and when I called them, where's your address? I looked into Google, it said 5.5 away from our house. I visited them. Okay. Let me tell you, while I was visiting them together with Olive, we met the family. One thing that he said, what's the difference in Virginia and Florida? I said, one specific difference, you don't have to file your personal tax. Really? He said. So when you register your car, there's no such personal tax in that one. But if he come back here for sure, I didn't remind him about that. The same thing with Jesus. He didn't have to mention, remember the Sabbath day. He told it to the Sabbath keeper. You know why? Because those people who are talking to are so much ridiculous with the Sabbath. In fact, they have what? 1,000 ways of observing the Sabbath. For some, it becomes too much a burden instead of a blessing. I want you to take note. Sabbath was made for man. It's made for what? For us to be a blessing. Remember what we read in the scripture earlier? It is a blessing for us to be reminded that we are what? God's created beings. So important for us to remember that every Sabbath day we are what? God's created being, and we are worshiping the Creator. And as we worship Him, we recognize that this is a special day. Not my day, but His day. You read earlier Isaiah chapter 58. Join with me reading, because it tells us here. And this might be a reminder. 58:13. I want you to take note, open your Bible. Because oftentimes, when we talk about the Sabbath, there are two directions. We might be so meticulous observing the Sabbath, or we may be too liberal, taking for granted what is Sabbath all about. But I want you to understand why Jesus taught the Sabbath. Okay, verse 13. Join with me. I'm reading from this, I call it Amplified Bible, but you can read your own. It said, if you turn away your foot from traveling on Sabbath. Oh, another version, you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your own pleasure on my holiday. Which day is this? God's holiday, not my day. He said, your own pleasure on my holiday, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy name of the Lord, honorable, and honor Him, in that going your own seeking or speaking or finding your own pleasure, speaking with your idle words. I don't know with children, but when I was a kid, I learned to sing this song. 6 days we have for work and play, the 7th is for Jesus. We rest upon the holy day, for it belongs to Jesus. And we start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for us. The 7th day is for me.
God, for the Lord.
Oftentimes we take it for granted. It's good for us to be reminded again. The 7th day is not for me. It's for Him. A special day. Now you may say, when do we observe the Sabbath day? On the 11th hour up to 12:30? Look, Leviticus chapter 23 verse 32 is from evening to evening. And a spirit of prophecy reminded us, be careful at the start of the Sabbath. In other words, if you'd like to fully follow what Jesus is trying to tell us here, Sabbath would be a real blessing. Why? Take note, verse 14 on that verse. Then you will delight yourself in the Lord, and I will make you to ride in the high places on the earth. I will feed you with heritage promise of Jacob your father. For the Lord, the mouth has spoken. Who said it? It's God who said it. If you want to enjoy the blessing of the Sabbath, take note of what God says here. And we don't like to disregard the Sabbath. What I'm trying to tell you here this morning is, we all know that the Sabbath day is a special day of God. But I don't like it to be on the other side. There's so much ridiculous on the Sabbath. Why? Remember the days of Jesus? He was what? Accused of being Sabbath breaker. Why? Because Sabbath day is not only a blessing, but also what? A healing experience. Physical, emotional. You can look on the scripture in the 10th commandment, in the scripture of the gospel, and you will find out that much more of the experience here when Jesus said, therefore the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. He said, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath day. In other words, it's not all the don'ts you're going to do it, but you can do a lot of good things. John chapter 5 is one of the miracles Jesus did on the Sabbath. Join with me, John chapter 5, verse 1. I'm reading now from New King James. And there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now they're in Jerusalem where the sheep gate, a pool which is called the Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 portals. Privileged to see this pool. Although different from what we see in the picture, because this pool is really far away from the person who's staying here. You need to what? To stand and go to the pool. Now, verse 3. In this lake, a multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. Verse 5. Now, certain man was there with an infirmity. How many years? 38 years. So when Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been in the condition a long time, he said to him, do you want to be made well? If you are the man, what will be your answer? The sick man answered, verse 7, Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I'm coming, another steps down before me. So, in other words, it would be impossible for this man to get well. Jesus said to him, Rise, take up your bed and walk. And verse 9, immediately the man was made well, took up his bed and walked. And that day was the Sabbath. Now let me ask you, are they happy? You happy to see this man for 38 years lying, waiting and hoping someone will bring him to the pool? No. Verse 10, the Jews therefore said to him, Who was cured? It's the Sabbath. It's not lawful for you to carry your bed. Verse 10. He was teaching in one of the synagogue on the Sabbath. And 11, and behold, on that particular verse, see, people are saying, after seeing the man who received the healing power, he said of him, praise God. He said, who cured you? You're not supposed to do that. What an environment we have in our midst, someone for 38 years been sick. Because you are in bed and God. And now you receive the healing power. There's another one. Luke chapter 13, verse 10. And on the Sabbath, there was a woman in spirit of infirmity, 18 years, was bent over and couldn't raise herself up. When Jesus saw her, verse 12, he called her to him and said, Woman, you are loosed from your infirmity. And he laid his hands on her. Immediately she made straight and glorified God. And again, here comes the ruler of the synagogues, answered with indignation because Jesus has healed on the Sabbath, and said to the crowd, There are 6 days for which men ought to work, therefore come and be healed. and not on the Sabbath. In other words, they're saying, you have 6 days, Jesus, to do the healing